No alien could survive the frozen hell until a human held her close. Rylan Cortez woke to the taste of metal in his mouth. Cold, sharp, and bitter. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Only the shaking of the wreck around him told him he was still alive. Red warning lights blinked in slow, uneven flashes, painting the twisted cabin in a sick glow. He tried to breathe, but the air was freezing. Every inhale felt like knives in his throat. Then memory slammed back. The drop, the shrieking alarms, the storm that came out of nowhere. A giant wall of whites swallowing their convoy whole. They had fallen from the sky like broken birds. Rylan groaned and reached for his harness. The ship was upside down, the ceiling crushed flat, the floor buckled in strange angles. Sparks snapped from a torn cable above him, scattering pale light across frozen metal. "Great," he muttered, still alive. "Lucky me." He released his magnetic clasps and dropped onto the overturned ceiling. His boots crunched against shards of ice that had already formed inside the cabin. His suit display flickered with static. The temperature warning blinked red. The storm outside was pushing cold through every crack. He braced himself against a smashed cargo crate and forced the main hatch open. It groaned, then ripped free with a burst of icy air that hit him like a punch. The wind outside roared like an angry beast. The frozen maw, a planet-wide blizzard that never truly ended. People said it ate sound, swallowed light, and crushed machines into dust. Standing there, Rylan believed all of it. The crash site looked like a graveyard. He saw twisted metal half buried in drifts. Saw broken convoy vehicles scattered in every direction. Nothing moved except the snow, racing sideways so fast it looked like a river of white. He scanned the wrecks for survivors. Nothing, not even shapes. But then, a light. A small, blinking red beacon struggled through the storm. Weak, but alive. 50 meters away. The envoy ship. His mission. Inside it should be Arzalon, the Aurelian emissary whose survival mattered more than anything else. Her presence was the only thing holding a fragile treaty together. Losing her would turn entire star systems hostile. Rylan pushed forward, leaning into the wind. Each step felt heavier than the last. Ice gathered in the joints of his armor. His teeth rattled from the violent cold. The storm wanted him gone, wanted to erase him like the others. But humans were stubborn by nature, and Rylan was stubborn even among humans. Halfway there, he felt something wrong in the wind. A rhythm, a pulse. Not human, not mechanical. He paused, eyes scanning the white void. The storm growled. A deep, low sound, almost a vibration. Rylan's fingers tightened on his rifle. "Not good," he whispered. A sharp crack echoed through the storm behind him, like ice splintering under enormous weight. He didn't look back. He moved faster, forcing his legs through knee-deep snow. The envoy ship grew clearer, its hull cracked, its nose buried under a slope of frost. The red beacon blinked in slow, desperate pulses, like a heartbeat fading. He reached the door and grabbed the exterior lever. The metal was so cold it burned through his glove. He pulled anyway. The hatch stuck. He pulled again, harder, gritting his teeth. From somewhere behind him, something hissed. Something alive. Rylan didn't turn around. He put every ounce of strength into the lever. The hatch finally tore open with a screech. He slipped inside and sealed the door behind him. The sudden silence inside the envoy cabin felt unreal, like stepping into another world. And there she was, Arzalon, pinned under fallen plating, eyes open, calm, too calm, as if she were carved from crystal. Her skin glowed faintly in the dim light, shades of sapphire shifting across her scales. Her long, delicate frills shimmered with frost. Her tail curled tight around the seat, the only sign she felt the cold. "Human," she said softly. "You took your time." Rylan let out a shaky breath. "Yeah? Well, let's change that before this place kills us both." Outside, the storm roared, and something answered it with a howl of its own. Arzalon did not panic. Even with half a support beam across her legs, she looked oddly composed. Her glowing eyes shifted over Rylan, studying him as if she were interviewing him instead of trapped inside a freezing wreck. "You are injured," she said calmly. "Only everywhere," Rylan muttered, kneeling beside her. "Hold still." He pulled out a compact cutter, its small flame flickering weakly in the cold. He sliced through the bent metal, sparks hissing and dying the moment they touched the icy floor. When the last piece fell away, Arzalun moved with surprising grace, standing upright as if pain was optional. She didn't thank him, not verbally, but her frills lifted slightly, the Aurelian version of acknowledgement. Her fingers moved over cracked screens and ruined controls. Every motion was quick and smooth, like flowing water. "Report," she murmured to the console. Only static answered. "Comms dead," she said softly. "Pilot deceased. Systems failing. External temperature dropping below survivable levels." Rylan nodded. "A good summary of everything I already hated." She tilted her head. "Your humor persists under stress." "It's a coping mechanism," he said. "Humans break in style." Her tail flicked, something between annoyance and amusement. They scavenged through the broken shuttle, grabbing thermal packs, rations, med kits, and one working grav sled. Rylan loaded gear onto it, but kept glancing at the walls. His instincts were screaming at him. Something was wrong. Too quiet. No storm should ever be quiet in the frozen maw. Arzalun noticed his tension. "Your posture is defensive," she said quietly. "Is something approaching?" Rylan didn't answer. He stepped toward a shattered viewport and wiped away frost with his glove. He saw nothing but white. Then, the white moved. A shape slid through the blizzard. Not walking, not crawling, gliding, like a shadow swimming through ice. Rylan's breath froze in his throat. "Arzalun, we have a problem." The shape sharpened. It grew thicker, taller. Multiple limbs unfolded from its sides, jagged like fractured crystal. Blue lights glittered across its body, blinking in strange patterns. The creature's head had no face, only a smooth obsidian-like dome, and every glowing point on it locked toward the envoy ship. Or rather, toward Arzalun. She stepped beside him, her voice low. "An ice revenant. A high-tier predator. Drawn to energy signatures. Mine or yours?" Rylan asked. "Yours is heat. Predictable. Easy to ignore." Her glowing core flickered inside her chest plate. "Mine," she finished, "is something far more delicious to them." Rylan grabbed her arm and pushed her behind the grav sled. "Stay low." The revenant flowed toward them, its limbs scraping the ice with a sound like glass teeth grinding together. Rylan raised his rifle. The storm swallowed the gunshot. The blast hit the revenant square in the chest, shattering a chunk of its frosted plates. They reformed instantly, the pieces stitching themselves back together like ice healing a wound. "Not dead," Rylan muttered. "Fantastic." Arzalun's posture shifted. Her frills lifted high. She drew a slender rod from her back. With a soft hum, it lit up with a radiant arc of energy, curved like a crescent moon. Aurelian blade. More art than weapon. She stepped beside him, eyes bright and cold. "Target its joints," she said. "You think I'm not trying?" The revenant lunged. Rylan fired again, hitting its shoulder. Arzalun slid low, blades slicing across one of its many limbs. Cracks flashed along its body. The creature recoiled with a shriek so sharp it made the hull tremble. But it wasn't wounded enough. It wanted Arzalun, and it was getting closer. Snow whipped around them, blinding and violent. But the creature was clear, as if the storm itself was parting for it. Rylan stepped forward, placing himself between Arzalun and the revenant. "Hey, over here, snow freak." The creature turned its glowing dome toward him. For a moment, Rylan thought it might attack. Then the lights on its head blinked twice. A strange, chilling pattern. Arzalun inhaled sharply. "It is scanning us." "For weaknesses?" Rylan asked. "No," she whispered. "For ownership. If this one is here, a matriarch cannot be far behind." Rylan's stomach turned. "Meaning?" Arzalun answered without emotion, but her frills flattened in fear. The storm did not bring it. She met his eyes. It brought the storm. Outside, the wind began to scream. Not like weather. Like something calling its children home. The revenant leaned forward, ready to strike again. The ice revenant struck first. It moved faster than Rylan expected, faster than anything that big should move. One moment, it was 20 meters away. The next, it was a blur of razor limbs cutting through the blizzard. Rylan barely had time to shove Arzalun aside. The creature slammed into the grav sled instead of her, slicing it clean in half. Supplies scattered into the snow, instantly swallowed by the storm. Rylan rolled to one knee and fired again. The shot hit the revenant's flank, sending a burst of shattered frost across the ground. But its body reformed before the shards even touched the ice. "Why won't you stay broken?" he shouted. Arzalund didn't answer. She launched herself forward, her crescent blade glowing like a slice of captured moonlight. She leaped and twisted midair with impossible grace, her tail whipping behind her for balance. Her blade struck the revenant's joint. A crack erupted across its limb, this time deeper, glowing from within. The creature recoiled with a piercing shriek that rattled Ryland's teeth. "That one hurt it," he yelled. "Only temporarily," Arzalund warned, eyes sharp. "Revenants regenerate from stored frost memory. They will rebuild unless the core is." The revenant lunged again, cutting off her sentence. Ryland tackled Arzalund to the side as the monster's limb slashed through the space they had occupied. "You can finish your science lesson later." The revenant's glowing sigils brightened. The storm around it shifted, snow spiraling unnaturally toward its body, feeding its regeneration. Arzalund steadied herself. "It is gathering thermal contrast signatures. In English, it knows where warm bodies are hiding." The revenant turned its faceless head toward Ryland. He felt that gaze like a weight on his skin, cold, heavy, deliberate. "Guess I'm the easy one to find," he muttered. "Lucky me." Arzalund moved to stand beside him, her blade raised. For a moment, her calm expression cracked. "The matriarch will sense this one's distress," she whispered. "More creatures will come." Ryland felt an icy spike of fear in his gut. One revenant was bad enough. A whole pack? Yeah, that would be game over. The monster reared back and slammed its limbs into the ice, sending a shockwave across the ground. Ryland jumped sideways as a jagged ridge of frost erupted beneath him. He landed hard, his rifle nearly slipping from his hands. The revenant sprinted toward Arzalund. Not him. Her. It could taste the energy leaking from her damaged core. Ryland didn't think, he acted. He charged straight at the creature. "Hey, she's not on the menu." He fired 3 rapid shots at point-blank range. The heavy slugs blasted open the revenant's chest in a shower of fractured crystal. Its entire torso cracked, light leaking through the breaks. Arzalund took her chance. She darted forward and sliced through the widening fracture with a clean, perfect motion. A bright pulse flashed from inside the revenant. It staggered. Its limbs froze mid-swipe. The lights across its head flickered wildly. The shriek it released this time didn't sound like rage. It sounded like fear. Ryland stared. "Did we?" The revenant didn't fall. Instead, its whole body began to vibrate. Fast. Too fast. Arzalund's eyes widened. "It is calling the matriarch." The storm responded instantly. Wind shrieked. Snow twisted upward like a spinning pillar. Lightning crackled somewhere deep within the blizzard. Ryland didn't wait for the next stage of disaster. He grabbed Arzalund by the arm. "Move. Now." Together, they sprinted through the storm, leaving the trembling creature behind. Snow stung Ryland's face like shards of glass. His lungs felt frozen. His legs screamed for rest. But the sound behind them kept him running. The revenant's shrill cry rose in pitch, echoing across the empty plains like a beacon of death. The wind carried the sound far, too far. "Cortez," Arzalund said, breathless but steady. "That call travels miles." "Good," he replied. "Means we run faster." "We will not outrun a matriarch," she warned. "We're not trying to outrun it." He pointed ahead. Through the blinding storm, a faint shape appeared, dark, curved, unnatural. A structure half buried in ice. Metal. Old. Silent. A forgotten research outpost. "Shelter," Ryland said. "Or a tomb. Either way, it's better than open snow." Behind them, the revenant's cry abruptly stopped. The sudden silence was worse. Much worse. Arzalund looked back. Her frills trembled. "It stopped because it sensed her," she whispered. "Sensed who?" Ryland asked. "The matriarch." And even over the raging storm, Ryland heard it. A deep, slow, echoing roar. Like the earth itself was growling. The full strength of the frozen maw had heard its child scream. And now it was coming for the killers. The storm thickened as Ryland and Arzalund staggered toward the buried outpost. The blizzard didn't howl anymore. It hissed, like something alive was moving through it. The matriarch was close. Too close. Ryland slammed his shoulder into the frozen hatch of the outpost. The metal groaned. He pushed harder, teeth gritted. The door snapped inward, and both of them fell inside just as the storm screamed behind them like an angered god. He kicked the door shut. Silence. Dark. Cold. Only the weak glow of Arzaloon's blade lit the room. Dust floated through the air, frozen in tiny crystals that sparkled like stars. The outpost was dead. No power. No heat. No lights. Rylan turned to Arzaloon, only to freeze. She was shaking, violently. Her chest plate was cracked along one side, and her internal glow, normally bright sapphire, barely flickered. Her eyes, always sharp, looked dull and unfocused. "Hey," he whispered, stepping closer. "Are you with me?" She tried to answer, but her voice broke into short gasps. "And my core is failing." He knelt beside her. The cold coming off her body was painful to touch, like grabbing dry ice with bare hands. "Aurelian bodies can't self-warm," she whispered. "Core breach means I will enter shutdown soon." "Shut down," he echoed. "It is not sleep." Her eyes closed halfway. "It is death." Rylan felt something inside him snap. "No, not happening." Her frills twitched weakly. "Cortez, the storm, your people, you must leave me." "Not a chance." He slid his arms around her, supporting her weight as she sagged forward. Her skin was icy smooth, freezing the fabric of his gloves. He didn't think, didn't hesitate. He activated the emergency override on his thermal suit. Heat burst outward from his chest and back, so strong it made steam rise instantly. The warmth wrapped around Arzaloon, soaking into her like water into dry earth. She gasped sharply, instinct taking over. Her hands clutched his arms. Her frills pressed into his neck. Her tail curled around his waist, tightening with every shallow breath. Her body was desperate for heat. Rylan held her closer, ignoring the pain of her cold draining his strength. "Stay with me. You hear me? Stay." For a long moment, she didn't respond. He could feel her slipping, her muscles going limp, her breathing slower, slower. Then a faint glow returned in her chest. Soft, shy, alive. Her voice came as a whisper. "You are a furnace. Humans run hot," he said. "We complain about it all the time. You are keeping me alive." "That's the idea." Her breathing steadied against him. Her cold finally began to lift. Her scales grew warm under his hands. The color returned to her frills, glowing gently in the darkness. For the first time since meeting her, Arzaloon's expression softened. Not calm, not controlled, grateful. She didn't move away, didn't hide, didn't pretend she didn't need him. She pressed closer, almost instinctively, like his heat was the only real thing in the world. After several minutes, she whispered, "Cortez, why? Our treaty is not loved by your people. Saving me only increases your danger." Rylan exhaled slowly. "You're not cargo. You're not a political tool. You're a person, and you're with me. That's enough." Her frills rustled, an Aurelian gesture of quiet surprise. "You humans," she murmured, "are strange, reckless, illogical. Welcome to the species," he said. "We also make great soup and terrible decisions." Her weak laugh vibrated softly against his chest. It was the first sound of warmth she'd made. Then, a deep thud echoed through the snow outside. Both froze. Another thud. Closer. Arzaloon's frills folded flat in terror. "It is the matriarch," she whispered. "She hunts this outpost." Rylan tightened his hold on her. "Then we stay alive until sunrise." 1 hour. "That's it." "How?" she asked. He checked his ammo. Not much left. He had a knife, a damaged shelter, and one nearly frozen alien relying on him for life. He nodded sharply. "We do it the human way." She blinked. "You mean bravery? Strategy? Clever?" "Mostly cursing," he interrupted, "and hitting things until they stop moving." Her frills lifted slightly. "A simple method." "It works," he said. Outside, the snow screamed as something enormous dragged its limbs across the metal walls, searching for a way in. Inside, Rylan pulled Arzaloon into the far corner, wrapped in his arms, heat pouring off him like a living shield. She whispered into his shoulder, "I will trust your method." He whispered back, "Good, because we're not dying tonight." The matriarch roared, and the outpost walls shook like paper in a hurricane. The outpost lights flickered once, then died. Darkness swallowed the room, leaving only the faint blue glow from Arzaloon's recovering core and the soft pulse of Rylan's heated suit. Outside, something scraped across the metal walls. Slow, deliberate. The matriarch wasn't rushing. She was listening. Arzaloon stiffened in Rylan's arms, her frills trembling. The matriarch can sense vibration through ice. Every movement, every breath, she will know. Then we stay still, Rylan whispered. Another scraping sound echoed overhead, like claws etching symbols into steel. The creature was circling, studying, learning. It wasn't just hunting. It was thinking. Rylan scanned the dark room. Old data screens, broken chairs, icy floor. He spotted a maintenance hallway leading deeper into the outpost. We move, he murmured. Quiet and slow. Arzala nodded. They slipped down the narrow passage, their footsteps muffled by frost. The darkness grew thicker, colder. Even Rylan's heat couldn't fight all of it. Halfway through the corridor, the whispers began. Soft at first, like wind slipping through cracks. Then words. Rylan. He froze. The voice was familiar. Too familiar. It was Lieutenant Harlow, his partner, his oldest friend. But she had died in the crash. He'd seen her body. Rylan. Help me, the voice moaned. Arzalan clutched his arm. Do not listen. It is not real. But it felt real. He could almost see Harlow crawling through the snow, reaching out. Rylan shook his head violently. Matriarch tricks. The voice grew louder. Closer. You left me to die. Shut up, Rylan whispered, jaw clenched. You're not her. The hallway suddenly echoed with metallic footsteps behind them. Fast. Heavy. Rylan spun, raising his rifle. But there was nothing there. Only shadows. Arzalan's voice shook. Revenants can mimic sound, but not intention. The matriarch listens to the memories she plucked from the smaller revenant. Rylan swallowed hard. She stole Harlow's dying moments. Yes, Arzalan whispered. She uses them now to weaken you. They continued forward. The whispers followed like ghosts trailing in the dark. Sometimes they were human voices. Sometimes Aurelian voices. Sometimes the shrill cry of the juvenile revenant they had killed outside. Then a new voice joined the mix. Rylan's own. Leave her, Cortez. His own voice whispered from the darkness. She's slowing you down. Arzalan flinched and stepped back. Her hand went to the hilt of her blade. Rylan grabbed her wrist instantly. Don't, he said firmly. That's not me. Her eyes searched his face. How do I know? The mimicry is perfect. Rylan thought fast. Our code, he whispered. You ask. I answer. She nodded slowly. What is the human envoy creed? She asked. Protect the mission. Protect the partner. Rylan answered without hesitation. Her hand relaxed. Then she asked softly. And what is Aurelian law? First directive. He smiled faintly. Never underestimate the warm-blooded. Her frills fluttered in relief. Good. It is you. The whispers around them went silent. Then the metal wall to their right dented inward with a thunderous crack. The matriarch was no longer circling. She was coming in. Move. Rylan hissed. They sprinted down the corridor. The walls shook as enormous claws tore into the outpost exterior. Lights flickered on and off, revealing glimpses of old research rooms filled with shattered equipment and frozen desks. At the far end of the hall stood a reinforced door labeled Core Access, Authorized Personnel Only. Rylan didn't care about authorization. He slammed his shoulder into it. It didn't budge. Arzalan pressed her palm against a dead panel. Her core flashed bright, sending a surge of energy through her hand. The door clicked and slid open just enough to squeeze through. Inside, Rylan shoved the door shut again. A second later, the matriarch slammed into the other side with earth-shaking force. The door bent inward. Sparks fell from the ceiling. Arzalan steadied herself against a railing, breathing hard. She knows this structure. She will not stop. Rylan scanned the new chamber. It was massive, filled with frozen pipes and dark machinery. What had once been a reactor hall was now a cavern of frost and broken lights. Then we don't stop either, he said. Arzalan's eyes glowed faintly. What do you plan, human? Rylan pointed across the chamber. A secondary exit, half buried in ice, led deeper into the facility. Same thing we always plan, he said. Survive until the monster makes a mistake. Arzalan gave a slow, trembling nod. Behind them, the reinforced door screamed as the matriarch's claws tore through steel like fabric. One more hit, and the creature would break in. Rylan gripped his rifle. Arzalan raised her glowing blade. The door gave a final groan. The matriarch roared, and the chase for their lives began again. The reinforced door finally snapped. A huge crack split through the center, metal folding inward like paper under the matriarch's claws. Rylan didn't wait to see the full breach. He grabbed Arzalin's hand and pulled her across the reactor chamber, boots sliding on frozen metal. Down there, he shouted. The buried exit was little more than a collapsed tunnel. Pipes and debris choked the entrance. Ice clung to every surface. Ryland threw his shoulder into the blockage. Nothing moved. Arzalin stepped beside him, her frills dimly glowing. Your strength cannot break this alone. Allow me. Her hand pressed gently against one of the frozen pipes. Her core flickered brighter. A soft hum traveled through her arm into the metal. The pipe vibrated, then cracked apart cleanly as if cut from within. Ryland raised an eyebrow. Okay, that was cool. Focused resonance, she replied. Aurelian tuning. Hard for warm bloods to learn. Put it on my list. Together they cleared enough space to squeeze through. The tunnel sloped downward, deeper into the buried outpost. The air grew colder, drier, almost silent. Almost. From behind them came the matriarch's roar, low, echoing, and impossibly close. They slid down the tunnel just as the monster's arm punched through the entrance behind them, claws snapping inches from Ryland's boot. He and Arzalin tumbled into a dark chamber far below the main facility. Ryland hit the ground hard, the impact knocking the breath out of him. Arzalin landed beside him, rolling gracefully and coming up on one knee. A faint green emergency light flickered on. Ryland froze. Rows of cylindrical tanks filled the chamber, dozens of them, each frosted over, each glowing faintly from within. Inside every tank floated a creature. Small, translucent, twitching. Arzalin's eyes widened in horror. Revenant juveniles. An entire brood. Ryland stepped back. So this place wasn't a research base. It was, she said, voice trembling. Until the scientists discovered these. They must have tried to contain them. Ryland scanned the tanks. Some had cracks. Others were empty. He swallowed hard. And some already hatched. At that exact moment, a soft tapping echoed. Tap, tap, tap. One of the tanks shuddered. A small revenant slammed its limb against the glass. The crack spread. Another tank trembled. A hairline fracture appeared. Ryland raised his rifle. Don't tell me. The first tank shattered. A small revenant, half-formed, its limbs jagged and uneven, lunged onto the floor. It screeched, high and sharp, like metal cutting bone. Then another tank cracked. And another. Arzalin stepped forward, blade igniting. They are incomplete. We can kill them. Quickly. Ryland fired a round straight through the first creature's chest. It exploded into shards. But two more crawled out behind it, moving erratically, hungry for heat. Ryland cursed under his breath. We can kill them, sure. But we can't kill 100. The room erupted in motion. Small revenants scuttled across walls and ceilings like crystalline insects. Their glowing nerves pulsed in frantic patterns as they locked onto the two warm bodies in the center of the chamber. Ryland took the front. Arzalin covered his flank. He fired, each blast taking down 2 or 3. Arzalin sliced through others with precise, elegant cuts. Her tail snapped out to strike one trying to crawl up Ryland's leg. Left, she warned. He pivoted and kicked a crawler across the room. It shattered against a tank, releasing another one. Great, he muttered. Chain reactions. My favorite. The juveniles swarmed, faster now. Learning. Coordinating. The matriarch's roar vibrated through the floor above them, shaking dust loose from the ceiling. She commands them, Arzalin warned. Through resonance. Meaning they're getting smarter? Ryland said. Rapidly. Ryland shot another one. Wonderful. The swarm grew too thick. They retreated deeper into the chamber, but there was only one direction to go, toward the central control platform perched above the reactor itself. Ryland spotted a ladder leading upward. There. Move. They climbed while the swarm clawed at the metal below. The ladder rattled under the weight of dozens of small bodies trying to follow. Ryland reached the platform first and pulled Arzalin up after him. She scanned the dusty console, her fingers flying across dead controls. The scientists tried to destroy the brood, she murmured. There is a purge protocol, but it failed before activation. Ryland pointed his rifle at the approaching swarm. Can you fix it? She hesitated. Possibly. But someone must draw the matriarch into the purge zone. The blast will destroy everything on the floor. Ryland glanced down. The swarm was climbing, dozens of glowing eyes staring up at them. Above, the matriarch roared again, ripping apart the upper floors inch by inch. He looked at Arzalin, at her trembling frills. at the faint glow of her slowly recovering core, at the fear she was trying so hard to hide. Then he smiled. Guess I'll go invite Mom to dinner. Arzalin grabbed his arm. Cortez, you cannot survive that. Probably not, he said lightly. But better than dying in a dog pile of ice spiders. Her grip tightened, desperate. I do not want you to die. He met her eyes. Then make the purge work. I'll handle the rest. The chamber shook violently as the matriarch tore through the ceiling above. Revenants screeched. Arzalin whispered, Human, come back alive. Rylan winked. No promises, just effort. And with that, he leaped down into the swarm, straight into the jaws of the matriarch's nest. Rylan hit the ground hard, rolling through fractured ice shards as juvenile revenants swarmed toward him. Their screeches echoed through the reactor hall, hungry and furious. He rose with a painful grunt. Okay, he muttered, lifting his rifle. Round 2. He fired into the mass. The blast tore several apart, spraying the floor with shattered crystal. But more crawled over the bodies, glowing nerves pulsing in rapid rhythm, responding to the matriarch's command. The ceiling above cracked open like an eggshell, and she descended. The matriarch dropped into the chamber with a sound like a glacier collapsing. She was enormous, easily twice Rylan's height, her limbs long and jagged, her central body swirling with icy smoke. Hundreds of glowing sigils drifted across her faceless dome, all locking onto him. Heat, warmth, life. He felt the weight of her gaze like a physical blow. Rylan shouted up to Arzalin on the platform. Get ready. I need that purge primed. Her voice echoed faintly. Cortez, hurry. The system fights me. Story of my life, he called back. The matriarch shrieked. Every juvenile shrieked back. The sound stabbed through his skull like a blade of ice. Then she lunged. Rylan dove behind a coolant pipe. The matriarch's limb crashed down where he'd stood, slicing a crater into the floor. Frost exploded outward, stinging his face. He scrambled to his feet and sprinted across the room, firing behind him. The shots did nothing but slow her steps. She followed, stalking, testing him, toying with him. Come on, he yelled. I'm the warm one. You want me? Come get me. The matriarch answered with a roar that rattled the railings above. She swung again. Rylan slid under the strike, boots skidding on ice. He looked up at Arzalin. She was still at the console, hands moving in a blur, her frills glowing with strain. Sparks burst from the control board. She flinched but didn't stop. Almost, she shouted. Define almost, he yelled back. The matriarch smashed through a cluster of support beams behind him. Metal screamed. The juveniles swarmed closer, claws clicking rapidly on the frozen floor. Rylan had seconds. He jumped onto a broken platform, using the incline to gain height, then pushed off and sprinted across a narrow walkway toward the center of the reactor chamber, right beneath Arzalin's console. The matriarch tracked him. Her limbs dragged across the floor. Ice formed where she touched. The air froze. Even his breath hung motionless. Rylan felt the heat draining from his body faster than his suit could supply. Arzalin, he shouted, breath shaking. Now would be great. Her voice burst through the chamber speakers, filled with raw urgency. Cortez, dodge. He didn't question. He dove sideways. At the same moment, Arzalin slammed her palm onto the purge activation pad. The reactor core flashed white, then exploded downward in a controlled wave of plasma. A column of blazing, cleansing heat erupted from the ceiling, engulfing the matriarch and every juvenile directly beneath the platform. The scream that followed was like nothing Rylan had ever heard. Agony, fury, an entire nest dying at once. The heat washed over the chamber, melting Frost instantly. Rylan shielded his face and hid behind a coolant conduit, the only structure strong enough to withstand the purge. The matriarch's body cracked, glowed, shattered. In an instant, she disintegrated into a cloud of steaming crystals that rained to the floor like black snow. Silence followed. Real silence. Not the whispering, living silence of the storm, but the silence of victory. Rylan staggered out from behind the conduit. His suit alarms blared. His chest hurt. His arms shook. But he was alive. He looked up at the platform. Arzalin sat slumped over the console, exhausted. Her frills dim but glowing. The purge had drained her core to its last safe limit. Rylan climbed the stairs slowly. Every step felt heavier than the last. When he reached her, She looked up with tired eyes. Report, she whispered. He smiled weakly. Target neutralized. Humans still standing. She let out a soft, relieved breath. Good. He picked her up gently. She was light. Too light, her body trembling from strain. Her arms slid tiredly around his neck. Her tail wrapped loosely around his waist. You saved me, she murmured. And you saved everyone else, he answered. Call it even. She rested her head on his shoulder as he carried her toward the upper exit. The storm outside had calmed. A faint blade of sunlight broke through the swirling clouds. Warm, honest, alive. As they stepped into the light, she whispered, Cortez, why do humans do this? Risk everything for another. He smiled. Because if we don't, then what's the point of surviving? Arsalan closed her eyes. Strange logic, she said softly. Human logic, he replied. And together, a frozen alien emissary held tightly in the arms of a battered, stubborn human. They walked out of the broken outpost into the first quiet morning the frozen maw had seen in years. They had survived. The storm had lost. And the galaxy had no idea what one human and one Aurelian had just overcome. But it would. Soon. Because their fight was only the beginning.